welcome back to another episode of Galaxy Gardens. My name is Chrissy and today is the winter solstice. It's December 21st. It's the shortest day of the year, arguably my favorite day of the year because what that means is we're going to get more and more daylight as time goes forward, which I love. It's the only thing that really gets me through winter until we move somewhere that we don't have cold and dark, snowy winters. Today we're going to be going outside. I'm going to show you how we take care of our girls in the winter. It's a pretty easy process. It's not very different from what we do during the rest of the year, pretty much, but I'll go through that with you. I'm also going to give you a bit of an update on what's going on with our indoor greenhouse, some issues we're running into, and what I'm going to do about it. So come with me, I'll show you some stuff, and I wish you a happy solstice. I'm outside with the girls. I think I have food, but I was just filling up their grit. I'm gonna move this, it still doesn't have food in it. So we've had a fairly warm winter so far. We have had snow, but like today is definitely like in the 40s or 50s. So I'm gonna go grab some oyster shells. So I just brought a little bit of grit out because most of the girls have not been eating oyster shells because they're not laying. So we keep their food in this tube, which works out pretty good, doesn't get wet. They can't kick it out because it's on a slight, excuse me dear, slight angle up. But they've been doing pretty good. I mean, they have all this area. There's only 6 of them. We have a 8x24 run that's 6 feet high. They have this area to sit on. I wrapped their coop so they can get out of the wind. And coming over here, the only thing we're really sitting on top of is actually inside the coop. So we wanted to try the deep litter method this year, but it's just been so warm during the days. We're going to cut extra vents up top here, something in like a 2x4, and then we're gonna staple some hard wire mesh, and we're gonna keep doing the deep litter. So what I'm gonna do today is even that out, put some new pine shavings on top, and get with it because we are getting very, very cold nights in the 20s or below. They've been pretty comfortable at night, but you know, the ammonia buildup just from their droppings is concerning for me. But we're still getting a couple eggs today. Let's see what pocket did I put them in. Oh, I didn't even grab them yet. So I've been opening this up on the warmer days to start out. Yes, Gunther. Go ahead and take these two. Yeah. So although we're doing the deep litter method, although we're doing the deep litter method, I do take out all the straw from the nesting boxes and replace it. And they're all like, oh, why are you taking my eggs? Anyways, we have a waterer here. Good? That's Wally. We have a waterer here, which just ended up being a very expensive bucket because it is not heating up anything. But that's alright. I'll take it inside and wash it off. But they just love to jump on the top of it. So, excuse me. Hello. I'm getting pecked, so I'm gonna go ahead and grab some pine shavings and we're gonna fix up the coop right now. Hi, Clyde. Pretty lady. So far, our experience with having chickens is that they just yell at you if you don't come with treats or if you steal their eggs. That's all right. So I'm gonna go get some oyster shells and those pine shavings. I will be back. All right, so this is where we keep everything. We do not have mice in our garage. It's actually quite secure in here. There are pine shavings. We have straw, grit, oyster shells, all that good stuff. We got a new thing that we're trying. You see my fruit tree tent behind here. And that's grubs, and just a few here and there. I don't give it to them more than like once every couple of weeks, just like a handful. Maybe like once a week if I'm feeling generous. Like with our cats, we really don't like give them that many treats. This is the kind of feed that we use because that is what they have at our feed store. We get the pellets, not the crumbles, just to help with Clyde because she has a bit of a hook beak. But she's getting along just fine. We don't have to trim her beak or anything. And she eats plenty with this. She's really adapted. She's got the scoop method down to a science. So basically all I'm gonna do is go get a bucket. I'm gonna put some pine shavings in there. We're gonna even out everything in the coop, put a new layer of pine shavings down, and we're gonna replace the straw. And then when we come back in, we are gonna deal with all of this, which I've taken out because in the last week, I don't know if you can see there, or last 2 weeks, I just haven't had a chance to get to it. We've had an aphid explosion. Now everything's growing fine. I just like need to water. I've been getting distracted. But it'll come back in. You can see from where we cut back the lettuce. I want to say I put that on Instagram. That was a couple weeks ago. It's all grown back. But again, dealing with some aphids. I have put everything in receptacles that are easier to carry. We're not going to use this much straw, which is easier to do that because it was a hot mess. As you know, if you open straw, it gets everywhere. So I grabbed a little more oyster shells and we're going to go fix up the coop. Okay, so first things first, we're going to take this. Put it over there. Really only the ISAs, which are these beautiful orangish brown tan girls. They're going to be in the oyster shells for now. They're the only ones laying. And because of that, we're going through them a bit slower than we did in the summer. But the other girls still need grit. Everyone still needs grit year round. So they'll just take that as they need it. Right, ladies? Yeah. You know, I've been to the feed store like 3 times in the last few weeks and keep forgetting to pick up some DE. Typically if you're cleaning out your coop, right? Some people like to power wash every time. Some people do that like a couple times a year. When the spring comes, we'll power wash this. But you would take everything out and you want to sprinkle DE in there. It helps reduce mites and other stuff. Some people don't like to use DE for different reasons. I'm not going to go into that right now. And prefer to use first Saturday lime. Here that works great. It's kind of hard for me to find in our area, but we have DE, so that works. Our girls haven't had any respiratory issues. Because we're doing a what is it called? Deep bedding, whatever. I'm gonna even this out, show you what that looks like, and then we're gonna put this in without the DE. If I had some on hand, I would go ahead and wipe down their roosting bar right now and add it to their boxes, but I'm just gonna have to do that next week. New bedding has been even out and laid down. You can see there's just a little bit extra right there. It's because I can't reach back there. I can go around to the other side, but I don't like to do that. So I threw a little bit extra because I always tend to dig that out and then you get a draft. Anyway, so this is what it looks like. You can think of it like, oh, not deep bedding, deep litter. You can think of it like a composting toilet, where you're adding shavings on top to reduce the smell, dry things out, right? So it's just another layer. Every time we've done this so far, it's about this thick, and then it just ends up compressing down. So it'll do that again over the next week or two. So put the roosting bar back and then change out the nesting area, and we'll be all set. Girls, that's the straw from before, guys. I know you think it's new, it's really not. Anyways, we have our straw from the nesting boxes, and so there's no chicken poo in here because they don't do that in the nesting boxes. But I like to take it out anyways, just to keep things as clean as possible, even though we are doing deep litter. I'm taking it over here next to our mushroom logs, which are looking fantastic, and to our compost pile, which is now kind of a hot mess. We didn't really finish leaf blowing. That's okay. We got most of the yard. I'm gonna throw this on top. After the holidays, I'll come back and consolidate this a bit. Probably move those leaves that way, these leaves this way, making a neat pile. What I really want to do is make like a pallet system that they're in, make like a little box. I made a stick barrier back there, but yeah, because it's like this whole section right here. And we've been adding to it. You can see a pumpkin. Anyways, let's go finish the coop. Alrighty. Starting to fill it up. Oh, got free string there. If there's any extra straw you want to get towards the end of a bale, I'll just give it to the girls to dig through. They have so much fun with that. But it's so cute. So they usually use this one. They don't usually use those, but they like when they're all full. So that's what I'm gonna do, because they make little divots in each one. My theory is that they don't actually all lay in this one. I think one of them goes and like collects them over, just because they all, you know, have a chicken booty imprint like within a day. Let's put them in here. If you're using straw for your nesting boxes, go a little bit thicker than you think, because they like to redecorate and kick stuff out, and you don't want your eggs on the wood. And we've already gotten like a couple frozen eggs this week, so prefer them not to be frozen, and straw's insulating. All right, let's go over here. Excuse me, ladies. Yeah, I see you. Alright, so add some there. All that stuff in there. Good to go. Good to go. Now I've been on all these different Facebook groups and like people we know. A couple of our friends actually ended up getting the same chicken coop we did, or rather we got the same one they did because they got chickens first. And a lot of people have helped ease my worry about the height of this roosting bar, because like realistically it is over 2 feet above the ground, but it's not that far above this. In the summer it'll be down to like this level. We don't do nearly as thick a layering, but this is gonna all compress down to about that much above instead of that much above. So I feel pretty good about it. That's all set now, and the girls have redecorated, of course, so I'm gonna go ahead and just throw a little straw on that. Now I'll go get a couple more pine shavings And so I am working, no, that's fun. I am working on a lean-to to put over here in this area. Not done yet, but it's gonna have a tarp on it and it's gonna look nice. And we have all this straw. So far we had like a small straw bale we got. And this is like the third time I'm using it to fill the nesting boxes. And that's what's left, so it should be good for like, I don't know, at least 2 more times. I'm gonna give the girls some because they like digging through piles. There you go. All of this was like all leaves that we came in here. I think I did like 3 wheelbarrows full. So they'll enjoy that. This is how easy it is to keep them happy in the winter. They don't like the snow, I found out. So other things you can do is if you have wood ash from wood you're burning that doesn't have any like nasty chemicals in it, you can shake wood ash around. It'll help melt the snow, and it's kind of like powdered charcoal at that point, which isn't like the worst for them. You can also get horse pine bedding pellets that expand when they get wet and just shake it over the snow. I want to get some more of that when it gets to be like mud season in the spring, but they're okay for now. Worst case, I'll put some pine shavings down. I'm actually very allergic to the pine shavings, but the chickens aren't. Just never use cedar. That's very toxic. If you are using pine, you'll notice that it does have a bit of a strong smell, so just air out their coops, have good ventilation. Chickens are doing pretty good. Meatball is getting most of her feathers back. Clyde is pretty much done with molting. She looks so pretty now. She was so sad like 2 weeks ago. Bertha is doing like a sneaky molt. She had this one feather sticking out from her side for a while. I'm like, I'm not gonna pull it off, girl. You can clean yourself. You do a good job. But she's doing like a really subtle molt. And the ISAs aren't molting at all. But everyone's happy. On the warmer afternoons like today, I'll let them out for some supervised free ranging time. Because, you know, there's only so many bugs inside the coop. Right, Clyde? Alright, let's go back inside. Alright, now that the girls are all set, we're going to go back in the garage and we're going to deal with my aphid explosion. Okay, we have a number of products that we use, but we try to use them sparingly. Really the best way to deal with insects, bugs, beetles, worms is prevention if you can. And if you can't, or if things get away from you because life is busy, there are some alternatives, and I'll go over those with you right now. This is pretty much everything that we have with my Carolina Reapers that are also being attacked. I mistakenly used one type of insect control and not another one. That's not why they don't have leaves. I made these dormant. They're still green, they're still alive. They need a little bit of water, but if we want them to put out new growth in the spring, we're gonna need to use something else. So let me show you what I was using, which was Captain Jack's dead bug. Now this one and this one are typically best for things that are like worms or beetles, okay? And this one's especially good for army worms, all right? So I was just using it, I wasn't even thinking about it. And I was using this when I really should have used something else. Now it says on here that it's good for spider mites, and my experience is not good for spider mites. Maybe other people use different concentrations for that, but it is good for some other stuff. Now, other things we have, green cleaner. That's a good overall one. This one's pretty good for mites. And also Dr. Zyme. So Dr. Zyme is what I'm going to use for the aphids, because that is what's on all my greens right now. And like anything, if you're gonna use any, I don't care if it's organic or not, like here, sulfur, organic gardening, you want to use general chemical safety with anything, organic or not, okay? I think most of these are considered like organic stuff. But this I'm gonna add to some water and spray for the aphids. If you have aphids yourself, they're kind of annoying because they come back, but they're pretty easy to deal with. I just haven't been paying attention to my greenhouse. But what you can do if you're growing stuff outside and you have aphids, you can literally just spray them off with a hose. It's pretty easy, and then spray them down. Now certain stuff you're going to want to spray when it's dark out, because if the plant is still wet with the stuff on it, it can actually get burned from the sun. Other things you can use are sulfur. So you've heard of probably mixing like milk and water to deal with powdery mildew. You can also use sulfur. I actually bought this for when we're growing potatoes, because this is just sulfur. There's nothing else in here. Oh, I think there's like a binding preservative or something in here. But you can actually put this down before you put your potatoes down, and this will help avoid scabs. So that's why I bought it. But you can also use it and mix it with water to stop powdery mildew. I like all of these. Castile soap, that's another one. This one's really good. You mix it with water. I found that's useful for dealing with potato beetles. Again, potato beetles, most things that are going to eat your plants, you can just spray them off with a hose and then treat your plant, all right? Or you can pick them off by hand. I don't like doing that because bugs are gross. But this one's pretty good to deal with potato beetles when they come in. Because the beetles themselves aren't really that destructive, but the grubs, when the grubs are growing, they will defoliate your entire potato plant. Copper fungicide, this one especially, you must cover up head to toe when you're using it. I mean, face mask, goggles, covering your arms and legs, using gloves, all right? Because if you don't use this properly, you can get copper poisoning. This one I actually was introduced to when I was in college, and that is what I'm going to be spraying on our fruit trees. It's a fungicide, and that's mostly what our fruit trees deal with, except for when Japanese beetles come through. So this one you can spray, I want to say up to 3 times a year, but we're going to do it twice a year, starting this spring. So before your fruiting trees, I've never used it on bushes, so if someone's used it on bushes, please let me know. But on fruiting trees, this is really good before they put out leaves and before they put out flowers. You mix this with water, you can spray down your whole tree, all the branches, all the trunk, let it dry. You want to use it best when it can dry for at least 24 hours because it will get washed off with rain or snow. So you can do it before it puts out leaves, it puts out flowers. And you can put it on again after your tree drops everything. Another time you can do it is once it has leaves on it and the flowers have already started budding fruit, like the fruit's coming in, but it's not ripe yet. You can try it out there, just be cautious. At that time you really want to aim for the branches and the trunk and just try not to get on the leaves. But this is pretty good. I definitely stand behind copper fungicide. So we're going to do it twice this year because I got our apples, pears, and peaches, and they ended up having fungal issues like the first year we put them in anyways. So we're going to do that and then maybe get some Japanese beetle bags. So these are the things we're going to use. Throughout the year, again, we try not to unless we need to. I really like preventative agriculture practices instead, like companion planting or just spraying stuff with water. It's really not that hard, except for spider mites are notoriously difficult to get rid of with just water. So this is what I'm going to use on our greens over there. We're going to give them some water and I'm going to call it a day. And then I'm going to need to go through my fruit trees in my tree tent again, and we are going to go through with a little bit of green cleaner because that's pretty good. for mites, but I can also use not Captain Jack's, like I said, but I can also use like a little bit of the Castile soap or a little bit of the sulfur. Doesn't really matter. I can actually probably use this too. Yeah, and it works. Please follow the directions. Please use proper safety when using any of these. This is just what we use. I mean, we've had these bottles. That Castile soap is easily like 6 years old, and we've barely made a dent in it. And Captain Jack's is like 4 years old. So we barely use any of this, but they're good ones to have on hand. What you're looking at here is that I've already watered. Now, if you have container plants, please water first if you need to, and then do your spray down, because you don't want to spray them and then just wash it off. And then I went through and I sprayed the top and bottom of all their leaves. I don't really feel like bringing these in the house to just spray them down. But again, if you're growing them outside, you could just do that with a hose. So, what we're gonna do is treat these again in 1 week's time. You could treat them as often as every few days. Probably max it out about 3 treatments. But what I'm gonna do is once a week because I'm a busy lady. Look how great this sage came in. It's so pretty. It's almost dead. So you can see some. Those will die. That's just a very brief update about the stuff going on the outside of the tent. Those green beans, I sprayed these down too, and got my carrots down here. I'm gonna thin those out. As expected, they got a bit too long because the light's not directly over them. But that's okay. So I think those leeks will do okay, but broccoli, probably not. I'm gonna go ahead, put everything back in here, and we will check on them next week. Now, if you are spraying and you wanna like harvest in a couple days, just be mindful to wash your stuff off really good. Many sprays will come off pretty easily just with some water. But if you're worried about that, you can always soak them in some vinegar and just rinse them thoroughly. So I'm gonna go, and we're gonna go back inside. All right, back inside, finished all our outside chores today. Pretty much all I have left to do is to make some egg pasta because we have a surplus of eggs even though our supply has been dwindling for the most part. We only have like 2 or 3 girls laying at this point, which is totally fine. We don't eat eggs all the time, which is why we have so much in storage. But the girls are happy, dealt with the aphids, that's great. Just a note about the aphids, there are so many different reasons why they could have been in there. They could have been in the soil. They could have transferred from another plant. I know my Carolina Reapers just had aphids show up out of nowhere in a different part of the garage and take over, and I've been treating them for a couple weeks prior to when I noticed that they were on the stuff in the greenhouse. So very easily could have transferred. You can, if you notice a plant is having some issues with insects or disease, you can separate it and quarantine it. Just in my experience, if one plant has it, the rest are gonna end up having it anyways, whether or not you quarantine, and I've tried that before. So I just like to treat issues as they show up. You can prevent a lot of things with companion planting and other just like good clean practices when you're outside, like sterilizing your tools. If you know something has an issue, don't like knowingly put it with your other stuff. The one thing I cannot recommend enough is please do not preventatively spray your plants with insecticides, okay? Insecticides, yes, they work for specific things that you're trying to deal with, but they can also kill the types of insects that you want to keep, all right? The only exception to that I want to say is in certain fungicide prevention and viral prevention issues. And that's why when I was talking about the copper fungicide, I'm going to go and spray my fruit trees in the early spring before the blossoms come out and the leaves come out, and again at the end of the year, just because fungal issues on fruit trees can get way out of hand, and I have a lot of experience with those. All right, so with that being said, I just want to say thank you for being here with me today. I know the holiday seasons get super busy. I'm very busy as well. I'm also in the process of transitioning with work, and that occupies a lot of my time, but I appreciate you here. And if you haven't done so yet, please subscribe. You'll get the notifications when we put out a new video. Otherwise, we'll have a new video out next Tuesday. And if you want to follow what we're doing in between, you can follow us on Instagram or TikTok at The Galaxy Gardens. I hope you have a good week, and we'll see you next time.